welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my May TBR. Now, May is my birth month, so it's the best month. No, I'm kidding. But I usually don't have a super big TBR for my birth month because usually I'm pretty busy. However, this time I'm going to be on a road trip. So during that time I may get the chance to read a few books, listen to a few books with Isabella because we'll be going together, etc. So that's really exciting. So I think that this list is a little bit longer than my latest TBRs have been, but there's a lot of things that I wanted to read, especially in preparation for the road trip and also for my CLEARURSHT mini. I wanted to have almost a clean slate for that, and by that I mean I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was going to be reading, and I wanted it to be things that like I was going to have a hard time getting to, like without a challenge, and so I've made it a challenge with the mini readathon. Anyway, so the things I'm doing now are things that I'm excited about, obviously. So we're going to start this off with my series continuations. First up, we have the last of the Familiar books. This is The Familiar Volume 5 by Mark Z. Danielewski. It is called Redwood, and I'm excited about it. The last book was pretty good, so I'm excited to see where this one goes. I don't have a whole lot of other thoughts about that, and I'm not going to read to you what it's about because it's the 5th book in the series, and at this point, if I told you, it would spoil the rest of the books. Next, we have The Serpent's Shadow by Mercedes Lackey. This is a library book, which is why it's so shiny. This book series is retellings of various fairy tales, as well as being in the timeline in the story of these elemental masters. So it's in an alternate kind of UK where, not just the UK, but predominantly in the UK, where people have these elemental magical powers and so on. Each book doesn't necessarily tie into each other until the more recent books, and I don't think I'll be reading the more recent books just because they're like a Sherlock Holmes-esque book, and that's not my jam, but we'll see. I'm gonna, get through the first few and go from there. And next we have Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler. This one is the sequel to Parable of the Sower. This is a dystopia written as if our world has fallen apart, kind of in the example of like Handmaid's Tale. If it really did happen, like this is how it really would play out, especially as it's written from a woman of color and written in the perspective of a woman of color. And I think that that's a better perspective than The Handmaid's Tale, which this one is convinced that the community should colonize the stars. Lauren and her followers make preparations, but the collapse of society and the rise of fanatics result in Lauren's followers being enslaved and her daughter stolen from her. Now Lauren must fight back to save the New World Order. Right. It seems really interesting and I'm excited about it, so we will see. Next up, we have 3 rereads. I don't generally do rereads, and 2 of these are childhood rereads. If anybody has been subscribed to me for a while, you'll remember that series that I did for about a year, and it was a lot of fun, and no, I'm not picking it back up, but the first thing we have is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. I did read a lot of the Discworld books as a kid, and I'm really excited about reading them again. My library has most of them, and I have this book on hold at the moment, and I should be getting it by the end of the month, so I'll have it ready for this TBR. In a world supported on the back of a giant turtle, sex unknown, a gleeful, explosive, wickedly eccentric expedition sets out. There's a voracious but inept wizard, a naive tourist whose luggage moves on hundreds of dear little legs, dragons who only exist if you believe in them, and of course, the edge of the planet. I just love Terry Pratchett's writing, and I remembered loving these books so much, so I'm really excited about it. Then we have The Shadow Thieves by Anne Ursu. Now let me tell you about this. I was in the young adult section of the library, really grateful that a lot of the time I look like I'm a minor, so people just assume I'm supposed to be there. And I saw this book and I was like, I have been looking for this book for years, but I had nothing to reference, literally nothing. I just knew the cover, but because I can't visualize, I could not describe the cover to anyone because I couldn't see it in my head, but I knew what I wanted. It was so hard to explain and so tricky and frustrating. I saw this and I was like, that's the fucking book I've been looking for. So I read these as a kid. The first book, I never got to read the rest of them because I didn't have, I could only buy books at certain times of year because I didn't have money, we didn't have money, whatever. And my library didn't have the series. So this book, see that girl, the one with the bright red hair, overstuffed backpack, and an aura of grumpiness? That's Charlotte Milzwetsky, and something extraordinary is about to happen to her. Did I say the title of this book? It's The Shadow Thieves by Anna Ursu. I'm pretty sure I did. Anyway, it's not the very cute kitten that appears out of nowhere and demands to go home with her. It's not the sudden arrival of her cousin Z, who believes he's the cause of a mysterious sickness that struck his friends back in England. It's not her creepy English teacher, Mr. Meadows, who takes his mythology lessons just a little too seriously. And it's not the white-faced, yellow-eyed man in tuxedos who follows Charlotte everywhere. What's so extraordinary is not any one of these things, it's all of them. And when Charlotte's friends start to get sick one by one, Charlotte and Z set out to find a cure. Their quest leads them to a not-so-mythical underworld where they face rhyme-loving harpies, gods with personal problems, and ghosts with a thirst for blood. Charlotte and Z learn that in a world overrun by nightmares, pain, and death, the really dangerous character is a guy named Phil. Sorry, Phil. And they discover that the fate of every person, living and dead, is in their young hands. I just remember loving the book and thinking it was so cool and creative and new. Is it? I don't know. I haven't read it since I was a small child, but we will see, you know? Like, I'm excited nonetheless about it. Okay? Next up, we have Our Wives Under the Sea that my wonderful cousin bought me a physical copy of because I had stated I want to read it physically. So thank you, Aussie, for getting me a copy of this. Our Wives Under the Sea is about Leah and her wife, Miri. So Leah returns from an expedition or a deep sea mission that ended in a catastrophe, and like shit goes left real fast, and it's really fucking weird and scary. But I'm excited to read it again with my eyes this time because I feel like I'm going to catch some things that I didn't otherwise catch, and I also think it'll be fun to mark it up. So put that there. Next up, we have my advanced reader copies, of which I'm only planning on reading one. I kind of overloaded myself this past month in April, so I'm slowing it down for May. We have The Wicked Unseen by Gigi Griffiths. To say 16-year-old Audrey doesn't fit in would be the understatement of the century. She's a city kid who's found herself in a rural town. The only girl at school who would rather kiss a girl than a boy. Not to mention that the whole town believes there's a secret satanic cult conducting rituals in the nearby woods, and Audrey is a born skeptic. When the preacher's daughter and Audrey's secret crush, Elle, goes missing on Halloween weekend, the town is quick to point fingers in Audrey's direction. While they harass Audrey's family for being newcomers and non-believers, Audrey realizes she might be the only person here who can find her friend. The deeper she goes, though, the weirder it gets. What happened to Elle, and is the evil of this town hiding really what Audrey thinks it is? Probably, but also maybe not. We'll find out, won't we? Next up, we have my other section, which is just like all the other books I'll be reading this month. First up, we have Field Guide to the Supernatural Universe by Alison Noel. When he first started seeing ghosts, Max mistakenly assumed everyone else could see them too. Now, after years of being blamed for the pranks of mischievous spirits, Max is determined to do whatever it takes to make himself normal. But when he's sent to spend the summer with his eccentric grandfather, Ramhart, being normal becomes impossible. Here in Glimmerville, bakeries sell enchanted pies. The lake is infested with mermaids, the town's beloved ghosts run free, and Ramhart himself is celebrated as the world's most famous monster hunter. At first, all Max wants is to survive the summer, but the more time he spends in Glimmerville, the more he starts to wonder if he's finally found a place where he can truly be himself. But when a supernatural attack steals Ramhart's soul, Max, with the help of a few new friends, must go on a quest to find his grandfather's renowned field guide, an enchanted book that contains all the knowledge Ramhart has gathered about defeating unearthly nemesis. And if they don't find that book fast, Glimmerville will crumble into chaos, and Max will lose the only person who's ever made him feel at home. Which we don't want that. Next up, we have I Fear My Pain Interests You by Stephanie LaCava. Margot is the child of renowned musicians and the product of a particularly punky upbringing. Burnt out from the burden of expectation and the bad end of the worst relationship yet, she leaves New York and heads to the Pacific Northwest. She is seeking to escape both the eyes of the world and the echoing voice of the last bad man. But a chance encounter with a dubious doctor in a graveyard and the discovery of a dozen old film reels opens the door to a study of both the peculiarities of her body and the absurdities of a famous family. Of her famous family, specifically. Next we have Not Good for Maidens by Tori Bobolino. This is a young adult horror. Lou never believed in the superstitions of magic until her teenage Aunt Neela is kidnapped to the Goblin Market. The market is a place Lou has only read about, twisted streets, offering of sweet fruits and incredible jewels. Everything is a haunting temptation for any human who manages to find their way in. Determined to save Neela, Lou learns songs and spells and tricks that will help her navigate this dangerous world, and slip past a goblin's defenses. But she has only 3 days to find Neela before the market disappears and her aunt becomes one of them forever. If she isn't careful, the market might just end up claiming her too. And our last two, we have The Lion Club by Annie Ward. At an elite private school nestled in the Colorado mountains, Natalie, an office assistant, dreams of having a life like the school mom she deals with every day. Women like Brooke, a gorgeous heiress, and Aisha, an overprotective mom. Their fates are bound by their handsome assistant athletic director, Nicholas, whom Natalie loves, Brooke wants, and Aisha needs. But when two bodies are carried out of the school one morning, it seems that the tension between the mothers and daughters, rival lovers, and the haves and have-nots has shattered the surface of this isolated, affluent town, where people stop at nothing to get what they want. Sounds spicy. And next is a mystery series, which is not my usual jam, but it just sounds really, really fun. And that is the story collection of An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helene Turnsten. Maud is an irascible 88-year-old Swedish woman with no family, no friends, and no qualms about a little murder. This funny, irreverent story collection by Helene Turnsten, the author of the Irene Huss Investigations, features two never-before-translated stories that will keep you laughing all the way to the retirement home. That's it. It's just two stories about this old lady solving murder, and I'm just excited about getting to see what the deal is with that. So, you know, there's that. And that's my TBR. I try to keep it kind of short and sweet. I know, I'm gonna be honest, I skipped a few books that I do plan on reading, but that's just because otherwise this video would have ended up being like 20 minutes long, and I just don't have it in me to edit something that long with everything going on in life right now between CLEARURSHT and my real job. So that's it. That's my TBR for the month. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these or want to read any of these and what your thoughts are. I would love to hear it. If any of these books you loved or hated, I love hearing about it, and like usually by the time I respond to the comments, I have read the book by then, so I can like talk about it also with you, so that's really exciting. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that already likes and subscribes and shares. If you liked this video, then you can like and subscribe and share. I would appreciate it greatly. And I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I will see you later on this week. Don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.